Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Israel's military is carrying out a new wave of extensive strikes in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa area. Here footage showing a huge explosion after an airstrike hit the seaside town of Jiyeh. Lebanon's health ministry says at least 23 people have been killed in the attacks. Wow. Hezbollah is though fighting back. Here a video showing Israelis rushing to a house that was hit during a rocket barrage on the northern Israeli town of Safed. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has urged Britons to leave Lebanon immediately.
In relation to Lebanon, I'm very worried about the escalation and calling for all parties to step back from the brink to de-escalate. We need a ceasefire so this can be sorted out diplomatically. But I have a very important message for British nationals in Lebanon, which is the time to leave is now. The contingency plans are being ramped up, but don't wait for those. There are still commercial flights. It's very important that they hear my message, which is to leave and to leave immediately.
Meanwhile, Pope Francis has urged the international community to do everything possible to stop the escalation in Lebanon. It is unacceptable, the pontiff said during his weekly audience in St. Peter's Square. I express my closeness to the Lebanese people, who have already suffered too much in the recent past. The Lebanese health minister says that since Monday morning, the Israeli offensive has killed at least 569 people, including 50 children, and wounded 1,835. Donald Trump has been briefed by US intelligence on threats from Iran to assassinate him. The Republican presidential candidate was briefed regarding real and specific threats from Iran to assassinate him in an effort to destabilize and sow chaos in the United States. That's according to his campaign. It did not elaborate on the claims, and it was not immediately clear if the threats it referred to were new or had been previously reported. Mr. Trump posted on the social media site X, formerly Twitter, that there are big threats on my life by Iran. More than 430 people have died from cholera in the past month. That's according to Sudan's health ministry, as civil war continues to ravage the country. The number of infections has risen to around 14,000, it said in a statement. It said it was doing all it can to combat cholera in the affected states. Medical charity Doctors Without Borders has reported that they are regularly obstructed by both warring parties. Sudan has been embroiled in a war since the army and the Rapid Support Forces began a vicious struggle for power in April 2023, leading to what the UN has called one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Residents have been helping firefighters combat a massive wildfire that broke out in the Ecuadorian capital, engulfing the city in a thick layer of smoke. The fire started in northern Quito and spread across multiple areas. The mayor of Quito, Pavel Munoz, urged citizens to keep roads and streets clear so that fire brigades could move through the city to combat the 5 hotspots. Catalan regional police have charged at housing rights protesters attempting to enter an international real estate fair. Barcelona, like other major tourist destinations in Spain, is facing a housing crisis that has triggered anti-tourism protests as locals blame the rise in housing costs on the proliferation of tourist apartments. Demonstrations were mainly peaceful, although a few scuffles did break out. And a zoo in Finland is to return 2 giant pandas to China 8 years early, saying it can no longer afford to look after them. Lumi and Pyri were brought to Finland in 2018 after the two countries signed an agreement to protect the animals. They were meant to stay in the Nordic country for 15 years, but will be sent home in November, with Atari Zoo blaming inflation and debt linked to the COVID pandemic as reasons for the pandas' eviction. It said it had spent €1.5 million a year on the pandas' upkeep, as well as more than €8 million on their enclosure. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.